Welcome back everybody to day 3 of the UK Stroke Club Conference, and a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time today. My name is Beth and I'm the UK Volunteering and Community Partnerships Manager at the Stroke Association. It's an honour to be chairing this incredible event. And I'm delighted so many of you can come together with us online. We've had over 200 people join over the last 3 days from across 117 clubs and groups from England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. So welcome everyone. We hope you enjoyed yesterday with its focus on celebrating all the incredible ways you continue to support your members. And hearing from Helen, Ruth and Sophia on the challenges of connecting online and ways that we can continue to help and support you to address those challenges. Today's first session is about connecting with other group leaders in your local area. You will hear from Philip, Graham and Carol, who are leaders already connecting with others, and you'll find out what they're learning about as they go along. You'll also hear from Louise, Claire and Mark, who work at the Stroke Association, on their experience of facilitating some of these networks. We want to hear your experiences too, so do join in on the conversations online. To do this, as Anne said, use the chat box at the side of your screen. You can put questions there too for us, and we'll answer them at the end of the session. We'd love to see pictures of you enjoying this event from your own home. So if you're familiar with social media, Instagram, Twitter or Facebook, please do share your photos and spread the word using the hashtag UKSCC. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Louise, who is our Volunteering and Community Officer in the south of England. She's going to start off by giving us a bit of background to these work.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. It's really lovely to be virtually with you this morning and to be part of this virtual club and group conference for the first time. I'm going to talk to you about club and group forums, but before I do, I've got 2 things I'd like you to do throughout this session. The first is I'd like you to keep your fingers crossed. I've been having some Wi-Fi issues this morning and some technical difficulties, including a power cut at 6 o'clock. So fingers crossed, everybody, that we don't have any unwanted interruptions. The second thing really is to reiterate what both Anne and Beth have said. We really do want to hear from you throughout this session by using the chat function. Let us know about your experiences of connecting with other clubs and groups, or just say hello and send us a message. We really would love to hear from you. And throughout the session, if you think of any questions that you'd like to ask myself or any of the panel at the end of the session, then please post them there as well. Okay, so let's start then. I'm going to talk to you about club and group forums, and I'm going to give you an overview of the work that we've been doing to connect clubs and groups through forum events across the country. I'm going to give you some background on how this work began, and I'm going to explain to you what a forum is and why we've been running them and what they can do for your club and group. We're going to talk about what's worked well, and we're also going to talk about what needed tweaking and how those learnings have actually helped our forums to evolve over time. I'm then going to hand over to my colleague Claire, who's going to talk about the opportunities that can arise from connecting with other clubs and groups in your area. Okay, so let's start by talking about how all this began. In 2016, the Stroke Association received money from the Big Lottery to help us scale up stroke group activity and opportunities within the community. Part of this long-term project was creating strong peer support networks by facilitating clubs and groups to come together and support each other. So what is a forum? Well, the dictionary definition of a forum is a place, a situation or a group in which people can exchange different ideas and discuss similar interests. And we wanted to create a space where club and group leads could come and do just that. We wanted to bring people together to celebrate their successes, to exchange ideas, to discuss challenges and problems that they were facing, and to overcome them together. We wanted them to begin to form strong local group networks. We knew that volunteering events were happening across the country in various different forms. Some had varying degrees of success, and there were varying levels of engagement. For example, some large events were open to all volunteers in a certain area, others just for stroke ambassadors, and some just for voluntary group leads. It was clear that the events had been successful, but we wanted to start to understand why some people weren't able to engage. So we started to talk to club and group leads and committee members to find out what they wanted from events of this sort. We discussed how often they'd like to meet, monthly, 6 monthly, how they'd like to meet. Would they like to meet face to face, or would they like to use the telephone or virtual options? We wanted to find out where these meetings could take place as well, trying to find a central location to bring everybody together. The response was great. It was clear that there was a real appetite to do this. Groups wanted to connect with each other. They wanted to find out from others whether they were facing similar challenges, and they wanted to be able to discuss this and come together in this way. So we set about organising our first pilot events, and in the South we were part of that. Across the country there was one pilot event in the North, one in the Central Zone, and 2 in the South. Our first event in the South was actually held in the conference room of our local museum. It was a very large room to fill, and I invited everybody and anybody I could think of. So we had volunteers there from all our groups. I invited stroke ambassadors. I invited local staff. I thought it was a great chance for us all to connect. We had people from the national team. I also invited local organisation representatives as well. It truly was the place to be, and I was astounded by the response that we got. We had a fantastic turnout. We actually sold out, which was wonderful. I say sold out, obviously the event was free, but everybody had heard how good the sandwiches were. The agenda that I put together was packed. We had speakers covering topics from ideas and activities to do at your group, including an archery session. You can imagine the risk assessment that we had to do for that. We had somebody there talking about how to support members with aphasia. And we had various other activities planned for the day, including a session about how to organise outings. After the events, we were really pleased. We gathered feedback from everybody, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Everyone who attended our events had thoroughly enjoyed them. They got a lot out of the speakers. But predominantly, the one thing that came through from everybody who attended was they wanted to hear less from us and more from each other. The lesson we learned was the value of these meetings. It wasn't all the information that we could pack into the agenda. It was hearing from each other. Talk less and listen more. Now, I don't know if any of you have been lucky enough to see the musical Hamilton. I'm going off on a slight tangent now, but my daughter adores that musical. And there's a line in that which really sums up the feedback that we got. And Aaron Burr at one point turns to Hamilton and says, "Talk less and smile more." And that's what we did. So across our pilot areas, we began to organise smaller, more localised meetings. We brought together club and group leads from specific localities, and we completely loosened the agenda. We made sure that there was enough time for sharing and for listening to each other. And these meetings began to be a regular fixture for all of us. It was a great chance for us to come together and discuss challenges and share ideas. And we started to see the beginning of some fantastic collaborative working, joint projects on things like fundraising events, discussions about outings together so that the cost of a coach or some of the other practicalities could be shared. And then came COVID. Face-to-face activity across the country and the web stopped, and the UK went into national lockdown. Connection and communication had never been so important, and we needed to adapt, and our forums needed to adapt. Since the end of March, we've worked across the country to enable leaders of groups and clubs from local areas to come together online. And in the South, our club and group forums became virtual coffee and catch up. In my area in particular, we use Zoom, which I confess before March I hadn't even heard of, but is now my second home. Our first Zoom meeting was quite small. It's fair to say I had a mixed response. Some people were really happy to embrace the move to digital, and others were understandably more hesitant. The first meeting, in fact, the first 5 minutes of the first meeting was a little bit like a séance. There was lots of, "Are you there? Can anybody hear me?" I'm sure everybody on this session's had a similar experience. But despite the small meeting that we had, it went really well. We were able to share updates. We were able to discuss local information. And at that time, back in March, things were changing so quickly. By the hour, things were, there were updates, there were government announcements. And then it was great for us to be able to come together and share our thoughts on that and to discuss what was happening locally. And everyone played their part in doing that. Everything around us was changing so quickly, and we had to change at the same speed. Slowly, over time, those meetings started to grow in number. More group leads started to join. Even those that had been initially hesitant started to contact me and say that they'd like to come along. And I set up a one-to-one session with each of them first, just to show them how Zoom worked, so that they could familiarize themselves with the platform. I was still acutely aware that not everybody was in a position to join those meetings, and I didn't want to exclude anyone from the value of those virtual club and group forums. So after each session, I would put together a note to everybody, an email of all the key items that were discussed. And I sent that out to everybody, and it was really well received. As the months went on and national restrictions started to ease, we decided collectively that those meetings didn't have to happen so frequently. At the beginning, we were doing them once a week, but we didn't need to do that anymore. So we moved them now to fortnightly, which still sounds like a lot, but it's a great opportunity for us to come together, and we really do have some fun. The forums have generated some amazing ideas and some fantastic innovations since we've been running them. Across the country, we've seen WhatsApp groups crop up. We've seen Facebook groups either being started or being reignited. We've seen so many different things, so many different forums then starting as well. For example, in my area, we now have a stroke ambassador forum, which brings our ambassadors together. And at the moment, they're working on some pre-recorded content that they can use to share and raise awareness. Off the back of a conversation during one of our weekly forums back in April about what clubs and groups could do during their own Zoom sessions, a colleague and I decided to create something we called the Summer Activity Programme. We wanted to show our clubs and groups what was possible on Zoom. And so every Wednesday from the beginning of August at 2 o'clock, we've been hosting a range of different activity sessions. We've had everything from mindfulness to live cookery. Some of you yesterday may have heard from Chris King from Checkers Kitchen, who did a fantastic session for us. We've had live music, and last week we had a fantastic talk from an author and owner of Britain's most extraordinary house and gardens, a place called Taliston in Great Dunmow. The sessions have proved so popular, we're in the middle of writing our autumn programme, so watch this space. Getting together in this way through our forums has been fantastic. It's helped us to strengthen the relationships that were there between groups and volunteers, and it's helped me strengthen my relationship with the groups across both of my areas. It's enabled us to share key updates and react really quickly during these crazy times, and it's given us the opportunity, as I said, to have a lot of fun. I know that things are difficult, and we certainly do have a bumpy road ahead. But I passionately believe that if we come together, support each other, and embrace some of the lessons we've learned during these strange times, then we won't just survive this, we will thrive. Thanks for listening. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Claire Green.
Hi everyone, so I'm Claire. I'm the volunteering coordinator for the South, and I'm going to talk through some of the challenges that we faced and we're still facing with our forums, but also some of the benefits and the opportunities that are arriving from being able to connect in this way. So as Louise mentioned, when we started looking at how to connect groups and volunteers, there were many different formats and trials happening in different places. And the move to digitally connecting people has been the same. In many cases, we've taken a bit of a trial and error approach as to how we can run these forums, and we continue to learn as they grow. So one of our first challenges was deciding how many people we invite. Do we open these up to a wider area, or are they better focused more on smaller local community groups? For the face-to-face forums, as Louise mentioned, we had to consider venues and travel. When we moved to online, these were no longer a consideration. But did we want to open these up to a large group of people? How many people is too many on a Zoom call? How many is too few? So in the South, we started with trying to bring together all of the groups across the South on one large Zoom call. Mainly we trialled this as staff furlough arrangements meant that for some areas there was a period of time where the main group contact was not around to help facilitate these forums, and we still wanted those groups to be able to connect and receive support. Feedback was in the main positive, that it was lovely to see other group leads and hear about what others were doing across the country. But it also felt too large, and there were some people who felt that it was overwhelming seeing so many people, and they didn't always feel comfortable talking and sharing their ideas. So on balance, it was felt that smaller local sessions may be better to help build those local connections and allow volunteers to build up their own networks of support, but the larger ones could be used on a less frequent basis if things started to dramatically change again and we needed to talk to you all in one go. Another challenge that we're starting to face more and more is how do we keep the discussions interesting? So at the start of lockdown, there was so much going on, so many changes, it felt difficult to keep up. This had the advantage of there would always be something to discuss in a forum. Now we've started to settle into more of a routine, and people are more confident with how they're keeping in touch, and the discussions are starting to change. As Louise mentioned, her forums have moved from weekly to fortnightly to reflect that. And the great thing about these forums is that they can be adapted to suit the volunteer needs in that area. In other areas, we've got volunteers who are connected more on WhatsApp, and they just arrange ad hoc Zoom meetings as and when they feel there's something that deserves a lengthy discussion. A final challenge that we're starting to face, and I'm sure you can all recognise, people are starting to feel zoomed out. How much of our lives are now happening over Zoom? Many of us are starting to feel that we're spending all of our time looking at a computer screen, going from one Zoom call to the next. I'll be honest, I don't know the solution at the moment, other than tweaking the frequency that we meet. But our long-term hope is that while now Zoom is our best, and in some cases only, option for us to get together, when we can start to meet face-to-face again, it will merely be one of a number of options that we can use to connect. Now we all know the technology, we can start to use it and we can build it into our network of forums. Our hope as well is that these forums develop. As these forums have developed, you guys have had the opportunity to make friends, have some fun and build connections for yourselves so that you can start to contact each other with questions and provide support to each other as well. Before lockdown, as Louise mentioned, as a result of some of the face-to-face forums, groups were beginning to visit each other, some just for a coffee and chat, others for friendly competitions or joint Christmas dinners, which is fantastic. I also spoke to a volunteer the other day. He said that joining a forum was the first time she got to see that there were others who were as passionate as she was about what she was doing. So we all have those interests that those around us, our family and friends, they just don't get. They don't want us talking their ear off about it the whole time. The forums are a space for you guys to meet others who do get it, and you can really have a decent conversation and talk through those ideas that you have. They're your community, and we hope that we're helping to make you feel part of that community by building these forums. By keeping our forums small and local, it means they can be tailored to you guys and tailored to the local needs. As we go through winter, we know we're all going to be experiencing different situations with local lockdowns, different rules and regulations. But beyond that, we also know challenges faced by stroke survivors are different across the country. Postcode lottery is often mentioned. The support that stroke survivors receive depends so much on what's there in their local community. So you can help shape your local forums to focus on your local community needs and discuss these issues between yourselves. And you can be there to offer each other support and guidance as well. You can also reach out to each other for support on things like fundraising efforts. Sometimes it's easier to hold one big fundraising event than to hold a few smaller local ones. Or raising awareness in the local media. This is another thing you can do together. Media often like a lot of people involved. So the bigger you can make it, the more interested they're likely to be. As Louise mentioned, you can go on outings together. If you've got a couple of members in your group who would love to do a particular outing, but there's not quite enough to make it worthwhile, you can check with another group to see if they've got any members who would like to join, so you can vary the programme of outings that you do. You can also share some of that work and organisation that goes into planning an outing as well. So what our hope is, what we would love to see, is that the forums grow and help us to connect with the wider stroke community as well. They can be opened up to bring in other local contacts that you guys have. So the summer programme mentioned by Louise, that's meant that organisations like Checkers Kitchen, who were originally offering support to our Dover group, they've now been opened up to more groups, members and more volunteers across the South East, soon across the South, and yesterday, some of you may have seen them as well across the country. This is fantastic. This is bringing all of those local contacts that we have and spreading across the country and helping us connect. Forums can also help us build the Stroke Association presence in our local communities. They can connect local stroke teams, other local organisations that support stroke survivors, and we can begin to work together in partnership with all of these organisations and people, and we can offer the best support possible to stroke survivors. We would love these forums to become your space. We want you to feel part of your local community, and we want them to be something you guys can use to really connect and really build the support for your group members and for local stroke survivors. I'm just going to leave you with a quote from Margaret J. Wheatley, who's an American writer and consultant who studies organizational behavior. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. So we're now going to pass over to a couple of our group members. We have Philip Milne, the chairman of Dunmow and District Stroke Support Group, and Graham Tidman, who is the secretary from the Thurrock Stroke Project, and they're going to talk about their experiences joining local forums.
My name is Philip Milne. I'm the chairman of Dunmow and District Stroke Support Group. Dunmow is a small town about 8 miles from Stansted Airport in Essex. We have a group of stroke members who number about 14 from this area, and we have several wonderful volunteers. The group is organized by me, basically, with a committee, and the exercises which we major in are run by a physiotherapist technician. She's not a qualified physiotherapist, but she is employed by the NHS, which I find is very important, because it was set up originally by the community physiotherapist, and that was 25 years ago. And I don't see why the NHS shouldn't help us, because we're helping them. We meet in a sheltered accommodation where we have use of the lounge, which has got a small kitchen attached to it. So after our exercises, we can have coffee and chat, which is great. We've about 14 members, and I keep them informed of what's happening. During lockdown, I've tried to phone them everyone at least once a fortnight, including all the volunteers, so kept in touch. I've attended several forums, and we have a forum on Zoom with the surrounding members, organized by the Stroke Association, and I've attended several local and national forums in the Stroke Assembly and Stroke Clubs conferences, which I've found very helpful to keep us informed as to what's happening and to know what other clubs are doing. So we can share information, which is great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Graham Tidman. I'm the secretary of Thurrock Stroke Project, Grays, Essex, for the last 7 years, and I've been a stroke ambassador for about 3 years. We've got about 35 members, of which 25 attend on a regular basis. I started attending the ambassador meetings and club meetings prior to lockdown, as this would enable me to share my own club's experiences with others and to get to know other survivors from different areas and maybe gain some ideas from them. We introduced an indoor curling session, and one club, Malden and Dengie, asked us to go down and demonstrate the curling to them, which I did, and it was very successful. They decided to buy their own set of curling, and we were going to have an inter-club competition before lockdown, but then lockdown put paid to that. Since lockdown, these meetings have continued via webinars and Zoom, and I think they've benefited us all by breaking the boredom that gradually set in during lockdown. They've helped not only me, but other members of the Stroke Project, either by them joining in with the sessions or by me telling them what's been going on when I telephone them each week. I hope to continue with the meetings as long as they are available, or until lockdown ends and face-to-face meetings commence once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip and Graham. It's lovely to hear from you both and hear your experiences of the forums and how they're helping you. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Mark Dyer, who is the Volunteering and Community Manager in Northern Ireland.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Dyer. I'm the Volunteering and Community Manager here in Northern Ireland. And I'm here to chat to you today about the catch-ups that we're having in Northern Ireland for our Stroke Association voluntary group leaders. Similar catch-ups are happening elsewhere, as other people have described, but I just wanted to give you a flavour of our experience of it. So why are we having these catch-ups? Well, we thought it would be a good idea to connect our SAVG leaders, considering the levels of, considering the levels of support that they're giving their group members and the similarities and differences in support that they're giving, that they and their volunteers are giving during this time. We wanted to create that community of people. We had tried in the past with physical events to get people together, but sometimes geography or just people's lives just made it very, very difficult for us. And also as well, we fell victim to that classic blunder where we tried to get people together in larger events like stroke assemblies, but unfortunately, those programs were packed and we didn't really get people together. So during this time, we decided to invite all of our SAVG group leaders together on Zoom sessions. It seemed the best way. We did a bit of a straw poll about, who could use what technology, and that came out top. So let's talk about the numbers and the medium. We've had 4 sessions so far. Monthly meetings are enough for us that we have actually found. We started in June, and just to say, this is all very new to us and it's all very new to our group leaders. So it's taken a wee while to bring people on board. The attendance has risen steadily, but it's still a smallish group. And that is actually really, really nice because it means that people can get to talk to one another. And also as well to learn the means and I suppose the etiquette and the tricks around communicating in this fashion. I think we still have to remember though that this medium doesn't suit everybody, being online and Zoom. So we always make sure that we're checking in with all of our group leaders, including the ones who are and aren't at our Zoom sessions by other means. But we have offered, as other people have said, any group leader who would like to connect via Zoom, via this fashion, or indeed in any other way online, we've offered support and help. So I'm going to talk a wee bit about the importance of introduction and catch-up. And I was at a webinar yesterday during this conference, and people spoke about the difficulties in actually bringing new members into groups, especially online, and how difficult it actually was. And it's just the same for group leaders as well. We have leaders joining with each session, and we give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and to say a bit about themselves and their group. And it's very, very important that actually people do this because we were quite siloed off in Northern Ireland in terms of our group leaders. So they didn't really know each other that well before these Zoom sessions started. So during the actual catch-up itself, we make sure that there's time and space given to basically for people to actually catch up. And it really is, it's a bit of crack, and it's really nice to have that peer support element inside the sessions as well. The best part about the catch-ups is when I, as the facilitator, actually don't speak. And that is happening more and more often as people are getting more confident and are getting more used to actually communicating this way. So what do we talk about? Well, apart from catching up, which is probably the primary reason for having the actual session, is we talk about updates coming out of the Stroke Association locally in terms of what myself and my team are doing. Things like our new Facebook group or our new choir. We talk about issues coming from the communications of the Stroke Association nationally, perhaps the FAQs in and around voluntary groups. We talk a wee bit about that. The leaders give updates in and around their group members and the challenges that they're actually facing, and we pick up on those. We talk about when we come across new referral organisations like AbilityNet and anything else that is in their area that we and they can share. We talk about, of course, recovery, and I think we've covered that in the course of this conference, but it is very important, and we do leave a space every time for that. And of course, there's an open forum as well, just so people can talk about what they'd like to talk about, and obviously give feedback to us about what they'd like to see in the next session. So it's really, really important that there is that voice there, and that the group leaders are actually taking ownership of the sessions and they're feeding back to us. We don't want to get, we really don't want the sessions to become samey and people to actually leave the catch-ups because of that. And I suppose the last thing that I'd like to speak about is why we're continuing to do this. Well, as I said before, we want to keep as connected as possible during this time, and we want to create that smallish community. We want to learn from one another. We want to make the recovery when it comes as easy as possible and as safe as possible. We want to make any future connection, whatever that may be, whatever form that takes. We want to make that as easy as possible. It's always easier to meet up or to do anything else when you actually know a little bit about the other people in a group. And just to say, if it hasn't come across, this is actually going really, really well for us. And we feel that maybe around the country, it's an option that is really worth exploring. So I think next up, I know that was a whistle-stop tour, but I think next up we have a video from Carol Boydell from our Bexhill Stroke Support Group. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me today. I'm Carol, and I'm the interim chair and co-treasurer at the Bexhill Stroke Support Group based on South Coast. The support group is the hub, with the Sing Out for Stroke Choir and Arts Group being the spokes. We hold virtual meetings for all of these. However, we also have a coffee morning group held in Rye. There are no virtual meetings for this group as there are so few members attend it, although some do now attend our other virtual groups. Each group meets monthly, and some members attend all groups and others just one. In total, we have about 70 members. When lockdown was announced and we could no longer hold face-to-face meetings, I had a virtual meeting with my stroke coordinator, Marie. We were saying how much we were missing seeing everyone at the group, and everyone would be missing the meetings. Marie then questioned if we could hold the choir using Zoom. It turned out Kerry, our singing instructor, already held a virtual choir, and before I knew it, I'd registered for a Zoom account, invited members, and was in front of my iPad with 43 smiling faces all ready to sing. We now hold our virtual choirs monthly on the day we would normally meet up, which I think has helped with the numbers. I organise the virtual meetings for all three of our groups. Our singing instructor hosts the virtual choir and I host the support and art groups. During lockdown, the choir has proved to be particularly popular and is normally well attended. The numbers have varied and have dropped a bit, especially when restrictions were relaxed, so more members were going out. I've also found that the weather makes a difference. I think sometimes a walk along the beach or in the countryside has more appeal than to sit in front of a screen indoors, and who can blame them? I feel the choir is so popular because singing has so many benefits. Following my stroke in 2015, I spoke with a dreadful monotone voice and I struggled to form and find words. Marie, my stroke coordinator, invited me to attend the first meeting of the Sing Out Choir, which she was just starting up. After attending a few of the meetings, I noticed a huge improvement in my tone, word finding and word forming. So a huge thank you to Marie White. As well as existing group members attending our virtual meetings, we also have new members who have joined since lockdown and many members from other stroke groups. We've now opened our virtual choir up to all groups and have given it the lockdown name of Sussex Stroke Support Virtual Choir. By opening up the choir, I've now contact with other local groups and have even had members from Wales and Liverpool join us. Some members from outside our area also attend our art and support groups. I've had a lot of feedback from people who have attended our virtual choir. There have been emails expressing how grateful they are that they can socialise again whilst keeping safe. They've also commented that they have felt happier following the meetings. One new member said she already feels part of our group and can't wait for the next session. I just feel so pleased that they've all benefited from the joys of singing and its advantages. Clearly, singing is not only excellent speech therapy, it's also good for your well-being. Since lockdown, I've attended the Sussex Lead Volunteers virtual meetings organised by my stroke volunteering manager, Lynn Vincent. This meeting has proved extremely useful to me and has helped me gain many ideas for virtual and face-to-face group meetings. I've gained support and encouragement, and I've made contact with other groups I didn't even know were out there. One particular recommendation I picked up at the meeting was from another lead volunteer regarding a charity that she had found that can host your group meetings. I contacted them and they hosted our August support group meeting. It went exceptionally well, and we have booked them again for this month's meeting. I found the hosting of the support group meeting to be tiring, and I would leave the meeting totally exhausted and washed out. Now we have someone else hosting it, I find it relaxing and I come away feeling refreshed and feel I've actually benefited. It's a lifesaver for me. This new connection with other groups has helped me enormously as I now attend other groups' meetings and pick up ideas and tips on running them. I've joined Cookfield Stroke Community Group with cookery. It was interesting and informative, and it was great to meet the Cookfield members. I also had a totally bonkers time with the Life After Stroke Centre singing. They changed the era of the singing with each meeting, which keeps your interest, and they have great fun as well. They made me laugh. They're truly bonkers, and I told them so. It's great to meet other group members and pass on ideas, tips and experiences. All this whilst having fun and making friends. Networking is making the running of the group meeting much easier for me and is making them more varied. So there are so many different ideas that I'd not thought of. I hope to continue this unison when we resume face-to-face meetings, and I may even visit them if they'll have me. They're welcome to join our face-to-face meetings anytime. I'm also hopeful that Lynn continues with the virtual Sussex Volunteers meetings when we're all back to our face-to-face meetings. It's so much more convenient and environmentally friendly. Maybe it would be nice to hold a meeting face-to-face occasionally. Thank you for listening to me, and can I just thank everyone at the Stroke Association for all their support and encouragement, particularly during these difficult lockdown times. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. What a rich and full 40 minutes we just had then. Don't worry if you didn't catch all of the ideas or reflections from everybody. This will be on our website shortly, so you can hear it all again. Wonderful. I feel really energized. Don't know about you, but after this I want to go and find a forum to have some good chats. It would be great to hear what's been going on in the chat bar, so I might bring Anne back in to give us a little summary of how the discussions are going.
Yes, all very engaged this morning, so thank you everyone. Lots of smiles about Louise's quote about less talk, more smiles, and the seance. Everyone was reaching out, holding hands, so that was lovely. Lots of talk about the curling and how different clubs and groups have tried that in their own areas. Alan Moore from Stone Market had noted that it's good to bring in other organisations to deliver some of these activities. It builds connections and also helps not having to store all the equipment themselves. There is some requests to get more involved in the curling ideas, so we'll share details about that online. David Burgess had noted that they had started some forums up in the northeast, but for various reasons they haven't carried on, but they are making their own connections themselves with local clubs and groups, so that's great to hear. Please do keep posting your questions and we'll get those over to the speakers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. Brilliant. I'd like to bring back bring back the speakers. If we can fit us all on screen. Hello, lovely to see everyone's faces. Welcome, Graham. Welcome, Carol. Welcome, Philip. Live time. Hello. Wonderful. So, yeah, we've had a few questions come through. And one of them is, I have not heard of local forums. Are they in all areas? And how do I get involved? And maybe I could go to Louise to talk a little bit about, if people haven't heard about the forums in their area, what next for them?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we are conscious that they're not necessarily happening everywhere across the country. I would just make a point that not everybody has labelled them as a forum, and perhaps not everybody actually sort of sees them in that way. So it could just be that you know, clubs and group leads are coming together in a different way with a different title. But what I would say is, if they're not happening in your area and you'd like to be a part of it, then reach out to your local stroke association member of staff. Contact your stroke support coordinator or your volunteering and community officer and say that you've been to this session and you really want to start up a forum or be involved in a forum, and then they can talk to you about how to get that ball rolling. And if you also want to make contact with other clubs and groups in your area, you know, don't wait for us. Reach out. You know, you can do that. If you don't have their contact details, then again, ask your local member of staff and we can put you in touch with them. And it would be great to start to see that starting to happen.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Louise. Fabulous. We've had quite a few reflections around partnerships and working with other organisations in your area. It would be interesting, Carol, to maybe talk a little bit about Interact and how you've brought Interact as an organisation into your group and helping.
Yeah. Well, I was totally exhausted hosting the meetings, and I was in a meeting with Carolyn Dodd, and she said they tried them and had them at their group meetings, and they now do the Zoom meetings. So I thought, well, I'll give them a go. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She's great fun, and she really engages people. Some of our more phasic members were really struggling to manage with Zoom. They found it all a bit overwhelming, but she slowed it down and she engaged them and got them to input to the meeting, which was great. She varies at each time. We had her for the second time yesterday, I think it was, and it went really well. Yeah, definitely real recommendation there.
Thank you so much. We will make sure we share the details on Interact in the chat bar or later on our website so people can reach out and connect with them. And in terms of other organisations, for Graham and Philip, are you finding the forums a space where you can find out other organisations in your area? How is that for you? What are you learning through your forums?
In Thurrock, we're fortunate to have what we call the Beehive Centre, where all the community groups are based there, and you can get all the information you like. So everything we learn, we can share with them, and likewise. So that's very good. We have a speaker once a month at Thurrock when we're not in lockdown. But you go to your local Beehive Centre.
Thank you, Graham.
Yes, I've been involved with the clinical commissioning group. I got invited to their stroke board committee, which was very interesting, and that spreads the word to many people that we exist, and we can feed into that. And also I've been able to attend several local trust groups. In our case, it's the Essex Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust. It's a hell of a mouthful, but that's the title of these groups that run things for the NHS. And I've got to know quite a few people there, which has been very helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, this focus on connection, reaching out, knowing people, linking, it's really come through so strongly today. So thank you for adding more detail to that message. We've got a question for Mark. Tell us a bit more about the Facebook groups for volunteers and maybe not just group leaders. So in Northern Ireland, you mentioned starting a Facebook group. How's that going?
Well, it's very new. That's what I would say. It's only about 2 weeks old. We've got about 140 volunteers in Northern Ireland, and we've got about 30 signed up so far. It's going really, really well. We've been actually quite lucky in that we've had a really good piece of content. One of our stroke ambassadors, Paul McLean, was on a program on Channel 4 in the past 2 weeks called the write-offs, and it was a really good way to actually launch the group. As you say, Beth, the group is for all volunteers in Northern Ireland, and what I was able to do through my my group leaders forum was actually to I was actually just afraid that I wouldn't have anybody commenting or posting, so I was able through my my group leaders forum to basically ask the group leaders to begin and get the ball rolling with comments and content, and it's worked really well because a lot of the group leaders have posted content about their groups and pictures and what they're getting up to, very much like the presentation that Michelle kind of gave yesterday. So that's been really, really good. I think what we're trying to do is just to try and connect just as much as possible, and it's just trying to find ways to actually to do that and trying them based upon the feedback that we've actually received. And just to say, I really do recognize people's struggles with actually using IT, because it took me about 2 weeks to press the go live button because I wasn't really sure about the about the use of that type of that type of Facebook activity, even though I'm a Facebook user. But it was okay. It was okay. It just took me a wee while to pluck up the courage, but just with a bit of help and support, I was able to do that.
Thank you, Mark. We've had a question for Mandy. Welcome, Mandy. Mandy Jones. She's asking, are forums available for affiliated groups to attend? They absolutely are, Mandy, but I will, yeah, everyone's nodding there. Absolutely are. Yeah, so Graham, would you like to say a little bit about that as
Well, we're an affiliated group, and I've been in the forum since day one. So yeah, they're available for all, and I recommend them.
Thank you, Graham. Brilliant. We've also got a comment from Marie White, and talking about when face-to-face will be possible again. They use fire stations and they have a community room for free, and we use this for our Hastings art group when they do meet face-to-face again in the future. So a bit around venues, I suppose. Would anyone like to comment a couple of minutes on venues? So Louise, you mentioned, and Claire, in terms of the venues that you've used previously and how you work to get free venues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind going first. I think, it's important as we sort of look to have more localized forums that we do try and use free venues. And actually, as I mentioned, we've kept the agenda quite informal. So it's quite nice to just meet in a coffee shop or somewhere that you can get together. I know Graham will remember we actually met in a community centre. They had a little coffee area and we met there. and it was fantastic. It worked really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're going for something slightly larger and you're bringing more people together, then you do really need to find something that's quite central, that as many people as possible can access, which is why we ended up using the museum. But there are free venues out there, and actually it's another great thing that you can perhaps talk about together as a group. You know, who knows what the local free venues are, and sharing that information together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any last minute reflections? I'm aware we've got 2 minutes before 11 o'clock. If anyone would like to give any last reflections, please do.
I'd just like to say that this online has been really good because it keeps everybody together and involved, but there's nothing like a face-to-face conference, so everybody's got to go next year. They're brilliant.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I think we will absolutely be following up this online conference with communication of what we see as possible for our future events moving forward. So we will be asking you, your views and thoughts on how we move forward with Club Conference over the coming years, given what's going on at the moment. So, but thank you. You're right. There's nothing like face-to-face, is there?
Can I just say thank you to everybody for the Stroke Association's help. It's wonderful just to know that you're there if we need you. And the help that I've got over the years has been fantastic. I've been chairman now for 12, 13 years, and it's just great to know you're there. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. That's wonderful. Thank you. We appreciate that. Right, well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We could probably talk about this, as like most sessions, for another hour. But if you do have any further questions for any of the speakers or anybody that you've seen comment in the chat bar and you want to link with them after this, please contact us, clubconference@stroke.org.uk, and we will get back to your questions directly, and we will link you to people you would like to still talk to. So grab a cuppa, leave your screen on. We'll see you at 11:30 for our final session that I'll be delivering with Liz Roberts-Wilcox and Stephen Jakes, who you met on Monday. And we're going to talk about our vision for the future and moving forward together.